community is the compass, built not of sameness, but of voices varied and vibrant, stitched together in a quilt of care and resistance. Let difference be our strength, not our division.
Good evening and welcome to our 5 o'clock show. This is the Stevenson and Yates, and we are politricking. Always glad to see you guys come in. It's a snowy, nasty day out, so hopefully we'll give you something to sit back and listen to. We always like to start with something to be grateful for. Let's see, what am I grateful for today? Every damn thing. I'm grateful that I'm still alive, that I'm on the good side of the grass. Again, I got a brother with me, and he's an analyst. He's our political analyst, and he takes care of us. His name is Mr. Ronald Yates. Let me bring him onto the stage. Boom. What's going on, brother? Hotep, what's happening? How you today, man?
I am well, brother, and I am thankful that throughout the midst of the storm, we got hit with a lot of snow, but we did a lot better than some of these states that had the ice accumulation. So many people are still without power, and so many people lost their lives. So we definitely have to be thankful that we got the snow. We're not happy for it, but you know what? Let's just be thankful that we didn't get hit as hard as some of these other locations.
Yeah, you're right. I guess I got some things to be thankful for. My furnace, of course, is out, so we're without heat and hot water in the home. But I am thankful that when we designed the house, we built it with a few fireplaces, and that's been keeping the house warm. So until we get another fireplace, hopefully that'll be sometime soon, maybe next week. Damn fireplaces cost a lot of money, man. For those
you mean furnaces?
Yeah, furnace. Yeah, some damn furnaces cost a lot of money, brother.
I just replaced mine a few years back, brother. I know.
Yeah, you're talking to thousands, and the way we want to do it, we have oil right now, so we're going to convert it over to gas, to use the natural gas. It burns a little cleaner. Oil burns 24 hours a day, and it's a nasty thing when you try to clean it out because it builds up a lot of soot and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, we have oil, and the only thing about converting to natural gas, what do we do with the oil tanks? I mean, we wouldn't be able to remove them. So
yeah.
I guess
they're gonna take ours out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We thank goodness that we pretty much have an empty tank. So they're gonna come. They take everything out, put everything nice and neat and clean. So the amount of money that we're spending.
Yeah. I know, brother.
I think they're gonna do a good job. Hey, we're gonna slide into a little bit of something. That ICE situation, man, that's been all over the news with this young man. I really want to send my prayers and my condolences out to that family. All right, because I don't know what people think of this young man. To me, he was being heroic because those so-called federal agents, they took a woman, they was throwing a woman up against the wall and throwing another, the way they were shoving her like they were gang members or something like that. Like we were out throwing up our dukes, we were getting ready to fight. This young man, he stepped in between that. You got to be brave to do that. You can't be a person without heart. He had so much heart that he was more fearful of her life, of her being hurt, than him losing his. So to me, that young man is definitely a hero, and people can say what they want, like I said, but I give that young man all kind of props, man, all kind of props, because he deserves it.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. This young man saw a woman being abused, and he went to assist to render aid because she had been knocked to the ground. And for some reason, the ICE agents thought that was, I guess, a sign of aggression. Well, I've been reading a book called, I'm going to hold it up for you. It's called A Palestine Laboratory.
You got to bring it a little closer to the camera, baby.
Yeah, it's called Palestine Laboratory, and it's written by Anthony Lowenstein,
Mhm.
a Jewish man. And in the book, he details that Israel is probably, well, not probably, is the largest seller of weapons in the Middle East by far. Um,
Mhm.
and they say that their weapons have been tried and tested on the battlefield. What they mean is in Palestine, in how they're able to repress the Palestinians. And they also, not only do they sell you the weapons, they also provide training on some of these repressive tactics that they've used for, going back over 70 years in Israel. Or it's reported that some of these ICE agents receive training with Israel, some of these Israelis,
Mm.
and they may have learned some of these repressive tactics. I mean, what you're seeing, like what happened to, Renee Good, to Alex Preddy, this is an everyday occurrence in places like Gaza, in the West, places like the West Bank, Golan Heights. That's been going on, for over 70 years now. And now you see it happening in America.
Mhm.
And, the narrative is the same when a Jewish soldier or Israeli soldier, even an Israeli civilian, kills a Palestinian. They always say, well, he or she was a terrorist. They're unarmed, right? I mean, they may have a rock and you might have an AR-15, but you are considered a terrorist. And they said that about Renee Good, that she was a domestic terrorist. And they
Mhm.
said the same thing about Alex Preddy.
Well,
If you,
they got a thing. What is it called? The first thing they want to do is first they deny. Then once after they deny, then they attack. And then you're a terrorist. You're a terrorist. Then after this, they make themselves the victim.
Mhm.
He was coming at us with a gun, and he was getting ready to do us in, so we had to do what we had to do. And this is how they justify each one of these things. First, they deny. We always notice that. No, no, he's in the right. He's right. And then they attack. They attack the person that was actually victimized. And those people that are committing that are victimizing the people, those are the ones that they claim are victims. And that's what's going on. In each one of those cases, you see, I mean, the first case, one of the case with the woman when she got shot. I mean, Jesus, I don't know how many times they have gone over this and gone over it again. That police officer or that ICE agent was in the wrong, man. I can't say any which way they want to put it. And now with this one coming up right afterwards, these police officers, ICE agents, every last one of them that pulled out that weapon and fired into this man 10 times, all of them need to go to jail. At least we need to at least have some sort of investigation. Now, the federal government, they're impeding that. So we can't have we can't have an honest and open investigation because they're going to sweep it under the rug. Okay.
Well, they're trying to. Um, they're trying to downplay it. They're trying to say you cannot simply believe your lying eyes,
Hmm.
that you think you saw an assassination, but let us tell you what you actually saw. And for the Trump administration, this is just another, I guess we'll say, fracture in his relationship with MAGA. If you look at the Republican platform, one of the key points for the Republican Party is the Second Amendment,
Mm.
the right to keep and bear arms. Now, the government is trying to say, well, yes, we support the Second Amendment. However, Alex Preddy was carrying a firearm at a protest. Well, is it illegal to do that?
What was that
It
kid's
is
name a
not.
couple of years back ago who came to the
You're
protest
talking
from
about
another state?
Kyle. You're talking about Kyle
Yeah,
Rittenhouse. Now,
I
he
mean,
was a hero of the
yeah,
Republican Party, right?
he
Cash
came from another
Patel,
state. Came from
yes, he did.
another
He
state, right?
crossed state lines.
What did he have? He
Yes,
had an AR-15.
an AR-15, which he was too young to possess, but he was the darling of the Republican Party, of the MAGA, of the extreme right. Cash Patel said something like, he would help this kid, I think, with his legal fees or something like that, something to that extent. Well, now you're going
Cash
against
Patel at
one
that
of,
time. What was he? A podcaster back then? You're talking about?
yeah,
Yeah, he was a
but
podcaster. Isn't that funny? The
but
guy. So you and I, we can go ahead and become heads of the FBI and the Department of Justice. We don't have to have any other qualifications except we can talk openly in the air. Is that what it is? That's all it takes?
well, as long as you're willing to bow down to the leader, then yeah, people can be put into key positions that have no specific training, experience, or knowledge for that matter. But
Yeah, I'm
but
sorry.
going
My name
back
is not
to
Tim Scott. I can't do that. My name is not Tim Scott. I can't do that to myself or my people. I'm sorry. I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
do that. You know?
right. Well, going back to this incident, Mr. Preddy, um, one of the keys, like I said, to the Republican platform is the Second Amendment. So now you have the NRA that has come forward and they said they want an investigation. Now, this is just talk because I don't think they want to risk getting into a fight with the Trump administration. But they do have to say something. This guy was a card carrying member. And, Trump himself said, what stops a bad guy is a good guy with a gun. So you say that Americans have the right to keep and bear arms. But now that this young man goes to this event, this protest with his legal firearm, and he gets killed, now all of a sudden, well, he shouldn't have had the weapon on him. You don't take a weapon to a protest if you don't expect to get killed. Well, let's go back to January 6th. How many of Trump supporters came to Washington, D.C. armed to the teeth? Why weren't they looked upon as being criminals? Why were they allowed to bring weapons to, you're talking to the nation's capital, and they bought weapons. I'm sure there are a number of laws on the books in DC with respect to weapons, and they bought them to this supposed day of love, as Trump describes it, but they came armed to the teeth. Those people are considered heroes, martyrs, like the woman that was killed trying to get into the chamber, right, who was shot. Her name is constantly brought up, but not in the same context as Renee Good. Renee Good, as we are told, is a domestic terrorist. Renee Good wasn't trying to break into the chamber of the Capitol, where Congress was in session. She wasn't trying to do that. She was trying to drive away, but she's a domestic terrorist. As I said last week, the Ku Klux Klan, which has more than 100-year history of terrorism, is considered a Christian organization, and they are 501c3, which means they do not have to pay taxes on whatever donations they receive. But something like Black Lives Matter or Antifa is considered a terrorist organization. So who's making these determinations?
Can you tell me what Antifa is, or who was in Antifa, or who's at the top of Antifa, or or is that just an acronym for a person who's anti or against fascism?
It's an acronym for anti-fascist or anti-fascism, right? So the other day, well, let me just go back a couple of weeks back. I think it was Senator Benny Thompson he conducted a hearing, and there was a Trump official there, and he asked him about Antifa. He said, "Where is Antifa located? Where's their headquarters?" There was no answer. How many members are there in Antifa? No answer, or rather, an answer that deflected away from the question. You're talking about Antifa, and how all they're spreading all of this trouble around the country. But where's their headquarters? How do you tell who's Antifa? Are there uniforms that Antifa wears? Are there Antifa membership cards? None of that exists. So basically, what you have, it's like the war on terror. How do you go to war against a state of mind, right? And that's what we did. And now we're creating an enemy, Antifa, and we're pointing fingers and saying, well, these people are Antifa. But how do you know?
Which people? What people are they talking about? I keep waiting to see these people that they're talking about. You know, they make stuff up. Yeah, and they love to use these acronyms, man. And people, they probably don't understand what the acronym, like the DEI thing and all that. Yeah, most people don't even understand what that means, because if they actually did, they wouldn't be against it. How are you going to be against diversifying? Right? You can't get away from it in this country.
Well, you know what? Well, you know what? The fact of the matter is there are a number of people that are against diversity, and they always have been, right? And it's not something that's likely to change. You know, when Europeans arrived into this hemisphere, of course, you know, there were millions of people living here. Could we have lived in peace and harmony? Absolutely. If you think about it, when they say the first person European that established, I guess, a colony here, you go back to Columbus, right? Never saw America. He discovered America, but never saw it. How? I don't know. That's just what they teach us in school. But he did establish at least a trading post in the Bahamas where he landed. And then he went around places like the Dominican Republic, stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is, Columbus had 3 ships. How many men could he have brought with him? If the indigenous people wanted to kill Columbus and his men, they could have did it as soon as they hit the beach. They weren't familiar with this area. They were vastly outnumbered. They could have killed them all when they came to this country and established, you know, colonies. They didn't know how to feed themselves. They didn't know how to survive the winters. They didn't know about agriculture in this country. They had to rely on the indigenous people to feed them, to teach them how to hunt, what to hunt, right? What foods were safe.
Let me ask you. Now, except for the indigenous people, if you want to say, I mean, we can go a little further back than that, man. I mean, who actually civilized? And if we want to talk about the Europeans, I mean, who brought them mathematics? Who taught them how to bathe and wash themselves? Who taught them anything about being civilized? I mean, they didn't teach it to themselves. We taught it, but they were barbaric people, and that barbarism has gone from generation to generation. It's like it's embedded in certain people's DNA. This is why,
and that was my point.
Right. This is why you got this ICE agent that he could just kill this woman, and it looked like with no remorse. Did you see? As he's walking away, he calls her F and B.
Yeah, he did, and it was captured. I don't know if it was his body camera or some other recording device, but it's clear what he said, right? But you have to understand something. If you go back to Trump's first run for office, and he was being asked, I think it was one of the debates, and he was being asked about his association with the Proud Boys. And he said to the Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. So a lot of these folks that were Proud Boys, that were the January 6th protesters, were hired by ICE, right? Since they were pardoned, their records were expunged, convictions thrown out. A lot of these folks now work for ICE. And there's a list that came out that tells who these people were that were once convicted of insurrection that are now working the streets, that have been issued guns and badges and are going out in the street with a huge budget that they're about to renegotiate, huge budget, weapons, and impunity. No one, no leadership, no direction, no protocols.
Well, not
even the law.
The Democrats did. This is what the Democrats did. The Democrats said that they may shut down the government If they
Hmm.
if they're gonna try to push it through, they give ICE more money, and they're talking about
Hmm.
it at least by Friday. They're talking about shutting it down.
Hmm.
I wonder if that's actually going to take place. If they're actually going to do that, and then what effect is it going to have on us? You know. But
Well,
this is what I got to say to some of that, man. I mean, I really I feel bad for the young man. Like I told you, to me, he was a hero. But these situations have been happening to African Americans, man, since I can remember. And I just can't remember so much publicity being brought around it. I mean, even with with Floyd, the way that they killed him, they try to demonize him and say he was a criminal straight up and down. Breonna Taylor, they shot through the door, through the window to kill her, right? So
mm,
I'm just saying is that these type of incidents has been going on in the black community since when I was a kid. The Black Panthers actually used to help protect us against some of the brutality that we receive from these police officers. But we got to keep in mind about how the police was formed and why. All right. They were formed to go out to be slave catchers. And they utilized whatever means, whatever brutality that they could put on the table in order to snatch up a person that they considered to be a slave. And at that time, anybody black, whether they were legal or whether they were illegal, snatched their ass up and brought them back to the plantation or somebody's plantation and put them on some auction block. So now here we have it in today's time where these ICE agents, they're pretty much acting pretty much out in the same role with the same type of brutality. Even with the cameras on them, they don't care. They'll pepper spray you in your face. They're supposed to be here to protect us, right? We're the American citizens, right? You got the bad guy coming in, so he's doing the all the criminal activity. Okay, get rid of him. The ones that are here, lock them up in jail. That's what we do here, right? So the other ones, get rid of them. So that's not what they're doing. They're taking everybody. And I tell you another thing. This is what I hear often is that they say that these people are acting like the Gestapo. And I just like to let people know that Hitler got all of his ideas from America. Even in America during that time, you had Nazi parties that were here. So a lot of the ideas that Hitler got, he got from the Jim Crow South, right? From good old US of A. So the only thing we're doing is the things that we've always been doing here in this country. We just find somebody else to pick on. That's it, bro.
well, I think that as it relates to some of the shootings you talked about, like Breonna Taylor, the killing of George Floyd, the media always presents that from a racial aspect, and they leave the story kind of open ended. So, what I mean by that is they kind of want you to connect the dots. Like they want to talk about the fact that George Floyd was under the influence, right? So they want to lead, and of course they'll drop, the name of the drug fentanyl. So when people hear that, they connect the dots. Oh, George Floyd high fentanyl, and that's what killed him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Breonna Taylor. Well, yeah, the police went there. They were at the wrong location. The boyfriend didn't live there anymore. But even though she hadn't been with this guy in a couple of years, she still had some involvement, right? That's the way they'll play up those stories when it involves a black person and someone who is they call white. Now, in this case, you have, a Caucasian person killing another Caucasian person, in when it's the opposite, when a black person is killed, there's always the media and the way they present the story, they want to demonize the black person. In this case, right, with not only with Mr. Preddy, but also with Renee Good, they're presenting them as victims, innocent victims who never should have lost their life.
Mm-hmm.
They're calling for investigations. People are out protesting. I don't care how cold it's gotten in Minnesota. The protest continues, right? And now you see some movement on behalf of the Trump administration. They're pulling Greg Bovino out. This is the guy who walked around with a Nazi leather coat on and did a Nazi salute. He did the Nazi salute. So he's being pulled out, and they're sending Homan in, I guess, to try to smooth things over some. But I don't think it's going to work. I think that a head is going to have to roll. And I think that Bavino would probably be the likeliest person to be put on the chopping block. I
Mhm.
mean, it would either be him or Noam. Noam is probably a sociopath, somebody that Trump really likes, highly uneducated and psychotic. So
Mhm.
she'll probably remain, but I think the way it looks now that Greg Bavino will probably be the one to fall on the sword. And um, I think in the mind of the administration that if they give up one sacrificial lamb, it may calm the situation in Minnesota.
Mhm.
But what's
I think they're gonna have to give up
compounding,
more than one. I think they're gonna have to give up more than one.
well, what's compounding this situation is that the Department of Justice, i.e., Pam Bondi, is demanding that Minnesota turn over their voter rolls, right? So basically, she sends a letter, and this has been, you know, uh, it's been verified by Governor Walz himself, who said that yes, I received a letter demanding voter rolls, and if I turn over those voter rolls, then they will pull ICE out of Minnesota. Again, some of these tactics, right, are tactics that is commonplace for Israel as it relates to, Palestinians. And some of these same things are happening in this country, which strongly suggests to me that yes, um, some of these ICE agents were trained by either Mossad or the Israeli military on some of these very repressive tactics. And this is and you see in the result of it in the streets of America.
Oh, some of them don't have any
And it's not
training at
about
all.
to end.
How about that one? How about some of them don't have any training? How about some of them already have records? They're finding out now that some of the ICE agents. There was one woman. She just became an ICE agent, right? And she
Mhm,
said she didn't know how she passed the test because she had drugs in the system. She said they didn't even test the P. They didn't even
mhm,
test her to see whether or not she was qualified to be a federal agent. You see, they
mhm,
let these people come in. They by the dozens and hundreds. They're allowing these people to come in, and they're not vetting them properly. Then they're giving them a badge, a gun, and they're letting them out there free to go do what they want to do. Then when they actually kill somebody, because that's what they've been doing, they beat up on people. They're like gang members, man.
mhm.
Just going around beating up on people, snatching people out of the cars and stuff. I just didn't think that would happen here. Well, you know what? That's already happened here in this country. I was going to say it didn't. I don't believe it happened here. I mean, when they were out with the hoses and spraying us down with the hoses and burning down our towns and burning out our little children in buses and stuff like that. So it's
You
happened.
know,
It happened to us.
you know what Malcolm X said, and this is what got him in trouble and led to him leaving the Nation of Islam. After John F. Kennedy was assassinated,
Mm.
the leader of the Nation of Islam, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, said, "Look, no one in the nation should make any comments with respect to the death of John F. Kennedy."
Mm.
Well, Malcolm was being, I guess he was walking out of the building, and when the reporters asked him his thoughts on the death of Kennedy, and he made the now famous speech about, or not really a speech, but just a statement,
Yeah. Chickens
about the
home.
chickens coming home to roost.
Mhm.
What you're seeing is exactly what Malcolm said, 1963. The chickens have come home to roost. And, we knew about this level of violence, right? It's been something we have experienced for 400 years in this country. This is now, something different for the Caucasian community. They're not used to this. They're used to being able to assert their rights. What rights do you have now?
Mm.
They're used to say, well, look, I'm an American. I'm entitled to have an attorney when I'm questioned. I don't
Mm.
have to answer questions. Well, now you do. And if you don't, you can end up like, Renee Good or like Alex Preddy. You know, if you think about it, for years, I mean decades, Caucasians have talked about a race war. I don't think they ever realized there's only one race on the planet, but I don't think they ever realized that they would end up fighting each other. It wouldn't be us, that they would end up fighting and killing one another. And that's what's happening.
Hey,
And some
bro,
of these things,
I got
Mhm.
one for you. Boston Tea Party, man. The Boston Tea Party, brother. What
well,
do you
you know
think?
what? Well, if you go back, right, if you think about it, World War II was just 80 some odd years ago, 85 years ago, give or take, right? And this was primarily a European conflict. This is just less than 20 years before what was called a war to end all wars, which I think killed what, 40 million people? 20 years later, they're at it again. White men killing white men. So, you know, uh, the Pope, and let me go back, not the Pope, it was actually Constantine. He began to unite Europe under the banner of Christianity. So finally, when the papacy was established, the Pope said, look, you European countries, stop fighting amongst yourselves. What you need to do is unite under the banner of Christianity, under the sign of the cross, and go and dominate what today we call the global South. And Trump is actually breaking the Caucasian bro code. Trump now is talking about taking Greenland. And the European Union and the European powers are saying, hey, Trump, listen, we don't do it to one another. We do it to them. We go and we take from
Greenland
the
is not.
global South.
I was looking at a video. Actually, I was watching television on the news, and it was a woman. She was speaking to a woman from Greenland, and she said specifically, "We are not white." She said, "We're not." And I looked at her. When I looked at her, what I saw like a fair skin or light skinned sister. That's
They're indigenous.
like to me.
They
Indigenous.
they are indigenous, and
Right,
they
and
have been there for
she said
thousands
we
of
are not
years.
white. And you know what? Another thing is funny is that they don't believe in borders or ownership of land. Can you dig that? That's how the natives used to be here too. Nobody owned the land. This was God's
Right.
land. Nobody, no
Mhm.
man or human owned the land. Right?
Mhm.
In Greenland, they say you can go ahead and buy a house, build a house on the land. They'll take care of you, but no one owns the land. And
Right.
I kind of like that idea. I think that's pretty
That
cool.
that is something that is kind of universal, right? Except to Europeans, right? Most um, people that have a connection to the land, a connection to earth, a connection to the higher power, realize that God gave us all the land to share, that no one man owns it. But Europeans came along and created a system that said, well, if I have a piece of paper, this piece of paper means that I own this land. Well, how did you get control of this land and who gave it to you? You can't enter into a real estate agreement with God. So how did you get it? But, you know, he's breaking that bro code by trying to take Greenland from the Danish. And now you have the former European allies and Trump said something, I think just recently, today or yesterday. He talked about who needs Canada? And then the Canadians responded with a list of all these men and women that died fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan, a war that the US started. And then we just talk about the amount of trade. We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars in trade between America and Canada that is not taking place because of the tariffs.
I tell you what he said about that with the Canada situation. He says he doesn't want them to do trade with China.
Right. And he's going to say he's going to punish them.
Yeah, he's going to punish them, give them 100% tariffs.
Right, right. Well, right. Which of course, what Canada will do, like so many other countries have done, is find other trading partners than the U.S. Now, if you think about it,
you know what they're going to do?
The impact?
I wouldn't want to live in New York City if Trump continues to play this game, because the power comes from Canada.
Well,
That's how you
you
light
got to
up New
understand.
York.
Well, you got to understand, right? The Canadians, just like these other people that have tariffs slapped on them, these enormous tariffs, all they're going to do is just find other trading partners. But what's going to be the impact for businesses in this country? How many businesses have gone out since Trump implemented his taxes, his tariffs rather, which is a tax? How many people have lost jobs and continue to lose jobs?
800,000.
When was the last time we got an accurate jobs report? We don't get them anymore. The last time someone put out a jobs report that showed only 73,000 jobs created, Trump fired that person. Since then, there's no jobs report. This economy is rapidly heading to a crash, right?
Declining.
And yet, well, yeah, because, you know, if you want to build the economy, you invest in the economy. The Trump administration is not encouraging investment in the domestic economy. He's trying to get oil companies to invest billions of dollars in Venezuela.
Now there's another issue about that with that Venezuela deal, right? So this, I had to do a little research, right? So it just came to mind as I'm doing this research. Why are we going over there for oil that they're willing to give us? Because they already had this on the table, Maduro and the rest of them, that they were calling Exxon. They were calling these big, come on in, you can come on in and take care of this business. So why steal the oil if somebody's giving it to you? I don't understand that.
Well, the Trump administration and administrations before Trump, can't just blame it on him. Biden, Obama, Bush, going back, decades, have been pointing the finger at Venezuela, particularly Maduro and his predecessor, Hugo Chavez, because they were leftist. Well, the Venezuelan oil fields were nationalized, but that took place in 1976.
That's
right? 1976. So why are you pointing the finger at Maduro and before him Chavez when they were kids when this happened? It had nothing to do with them. But in terms of stealing the oil, well, let's think about it. Those tankers that were taken, and they just sold the oil from a tanker just recently, 500,000 barrels of oil. Where did the money go? The money was put into an account in Qatar. Who has access to the account in Qatar? How are the American people benefiting? You got to understand, American naval forces and Marines are in this area, putting their lives at stake. How are they benefiting from the capture of Nicolas Maduro and his wife or the sale of the oil?
Listen, man,
the money's not even coming into this country.
But you already know this is not about us. This is not about us, how we're going to do better as Americans. They could, excuse my French, and I got my little jar over there, they could get less than a shit about Americans and how we're going to do as Americans, how well we're going to do, whether we're going to grow as a nation, whether we unify as a nation. They prefer us to be divided. This way they can run around and do all kind of stuff behind our backs because we're too busy at each other. Instead of trying to, we don't have to totally unify, but then we got to come together. We got to act like humans. We have to have some humanity. The way that woman was killed, and the way that young man was killed, and the other killings that have been done, there's like no humanity here. And that's the problem. I don't care red, I don't care blue, I don't care whatever, man. It's got to come down to like that purplish. We the people. That's the only way it's going to work in this country.
Well, you got to understand something, right? What's happening in places like Minnesota and across the country, in blue states anyway, the Trump administration is desperately trying to create chaos. They want the violence. Once, the playbook is to create the conditions then allow the chaos to ensue, and then you're the one to bring order. So I think it's the second or third law of thermodynamics. Out of chaos comes order.
Right.
Well, you know what? That's a Eurocentric theory. Because why do you need to have chaos to get order? Why not just maintain order? But the idea is to create chaos. And once chaos is created, that'll serve two purposes. One, no midterm election. Two, Trump goes in. Trump is looked upon as being a hero. Trump is the one that brings peace, that brings order. And for those that follow Trump, right, it's not too hard. All he has to do is say certain things, certain buzzwords, like white people were harmed by the civil rights movement.
Huh.
And that gets him back in the good graces of MAGA,
Can you
at least temporarily.
run that down to me? How is it that white people were harmed because of the civil rights? Now, this is what killed me. So certain white people feel that they were harmed because now black people can do as well as they can do. Now that black people have this equal footing, and the white people don't have their foot down on your neck, keeping you down. Now you got this equal footing. So what are we taking away from that? As black people, what are we taking away from white people? I don't get it. What are we taking away from the guy that's working on the steel mill or the guy that's climbing the telephone pole? What are we taking from them? And why do they hate us so much?
Well, here's the thing. I certainly wouldn't call it equal footing. And what I'd like to ask some of my Caucasian counterparts who are angry at black people for programs like affirmative action, I'd like to ask them, who wrote the legislation for affirmative action? Who passed the legislation for affirmative action? You see, the thing is, it was white men, because that's who was in Congress during that time, white men over the age of 50 who wrote this legislation. It was white men over the age of 50 that lobbied and passed this legislation. Well, we weren't in Congress. We didn't ask for it. Malcolm X was dead by this time. He damn sure didn't want affirmative action. Dr. King was dead by this time. Do you remember Dr. King asking for affirmative action in any of his speeches? Well, if we didn't ask for it, who the hell did? This program, which benefited primarily white women and not the black community, we never asked for that. Why would we ask for a program that's going to give some of us, a small percentage of us, an opportunity, while the vast majority of us remain in abject poverty? That was not our plan. Hell, we wanted a lot more, deserve a hell of a lot more. So when you talk about these programs, right, these quota programs, yes, that's what they are. We didn't ask for them. People, white men, they're the ones that wrote this legislation. They're the ones that put this out there. So be mad at them, not us.
Now, wasn't there already a quota system in place? You know, if you're white, you're right. If you're black, get to the back. It seems like there was already a quota system in play. You know, it's just that, well, we'll hire a couple of black people, so this way we look good to the rest of the public as we're actually taking it. Let me tell you, I took a job one time back in the day, in the early 80s. I'm not going to mention the name of the company, but I took a job, and I was the only black fellow there. And I was working in a capacity of a manager. I had to end up leaving the job after about 6 months. They wrote on the side of my car, big letters, "Niggas go home." And every day, if I went to lunch, then people would tell me in the stores, "We know that you don't live around here." They said, "Anybody like you work around here, but you don't live around here." So this racist thing has been going on and on and on. Don't you remember back in the day when they the boy was running across the highway, Spring Boulevard, one of them highways out there in Queens,
the Bell Parkway and Howard Beach.
They chased the boy down with the baseball bat.
He was hit by a car and killed. Yeah.
So you know these situations are ongoing for us, man. And it seems like what are we going to do about it as a people? Our people. I'm talking like if you were Jewish and I was Jewish and We were talking about our people and what we're gonna do, or how can we help protect our people.
Well, you know what? I saw a movie today, which was gives me a great deal of optimism. The movie's called the Birmingham Brawl,
Mm.
and it's really a documentary, and it's based on the incident that occurred in 2023, where a group of white people at a dock in Birmingham had attacked a black man, and you saw a brother jump in the water, swimming across to help him come to his aid.
Oh yeah, that situation, right?
Then you saw the squad coming, right? And you saw black people saying, "Oh no, 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 we're not going to sit idly by while you beat one of our brothers to death."
Right.
And when they got down there, there was, I guess the term was a mollywhopping, right? And I think that for people, and I'm talking about Caucasian people, to see that, I think it kind of lets them know this is not the 1960s or 70s or 50s or 40s. This is a time when black people will not sit idly by while you come and attack one of us while the others were made a watch. Just sit by and watch or pick up our phone and record. You know, throughout slavery, whenever one of the Africans was punished, all the people on the plantation were made to watch, to instill fear. Well, I think we got to a point where we're not really afraid anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that for all these folks that, think that they're going to just annihilate people, just walk into the community with their guns and just annihilate people, I think that they need to recalculate that, because no one's going to sit idly by and allow that to happen. You know, when Trump was president the first time, just look at gun sales amongst black and brown people. Just look how many gun clubs were formed. Just look at the rise or the reemergence of groups like the Black Panther Party for
Mm-hmm.
self-defense, and other offshoot groups that have sprang up around the country. So if people think that we're just going to go and burn a cross in front of somebody's yard and drag them out and beat the hell out of them or kill them, I don't think it's going to be quite so easy anymore.
Just to we're getting close to that time, right? So I just want to put it out there with African American Black History Month is coming up. I call it African American. Black History is coming up. Granville T. Woods. There we go. I got some people next month that I really like to bring to the forefront. I know we usually do Frederick Douglass, or we'll do Booker T. Washington, the usual, right? I call them the usual, but I like to speak about some of the people that you don't hear about. So right now, I'm going to give props to, since you brought it up, our gun club, the first African American gun club right here, which is known as Blackfoot. The person that started Blackfoot was a young lady. Her name is Tamiko Patterson, but the president now is Derek Sampson. So I like to give praise to them. This is Black History Month, and what he's doing for our community, he's doing a lot. That gun club is doing a lot for us. It's teaching us
Absolutely.
It's teaching us how to defend ourselves legally. I went to some of his classes, and they're damn good. He has some
Yes, they are
very vital information that he gives out to us, so we can learn how to not only protect ourselves with our firearm, but how to protect ourselves with our mind, which is the most important. So I just want to give a shout out, and that's Blackfoot Gun Club. You guys can look it up online. They are the first African American gun club here.
Pocono Blackfoot Gun Club, because there may be other Blackfoots, but ours is specifically Pocono Blackfoot Gun Club.
Thank you, brother, for that. But,
you're quite welcome, brother.
I wanted to give props to that, and I want to let people also know is that when you see black people and they're angry, there's it's called black pain, and we got a reason to be angry. 400 years of oppression, getting beat down, the abuse that we've had to take, and and gone through year after year after year. I mean, even now, up until today's time, when I was growing up as a kid, my mother said we had to be twice as good. Well, in today's times, it seems like we got to be 3 times as good. And if they're trying to divide up the Black family, I love women empowerment, but I love family empowerment even more. So I love to keep the Black family together. We know that it was a little game that they played on us by taking a Black man out of the family unit by not giving them jobs, bringing them down, all kind of nonsense. They became alcoholics and drug addicts, and they left us to have the woman to be in charge and take care of the family. And not in all families, but enough to make a dent. So in order for us to grow as a people, we're going to have to grow as a family first, because family is the strongest organization known to man. As long as we have a strong family, nothing can defeat us. So that's my little tidbit for the day. Got something you want to say, brother, before we break out?
Well, there's just one individual that I'd like you to take a look at, because maybe we can discuss this at some point. This is a Black man. He is a pastor, and he's also a podcaster. He has JLP Talk, and his name is Jesse Lee Peterson. And I saw him, believe it may have been on Dr. Phil's show, and he was saying that what he wants to see is more white babies being born.
Mhm.
And the reason behind that is because he said the reason behind that is because white people tend to be more creative, more intelligent. Yes. So I'd like you to take a look at what he has to say, and then we can talk
you
about.
really want me to waste my time with that?
No,
I
because
can't do that, man.
no, but what I want to do is, we're going into Black History Month, right?
Right?
So
Yes,
we
sir.
also, while we're going to talk about positive aspects of Black history and Black life, we also need to talk about the hatred we have, self-hatred, the deep-seated self-hatred, and how it comes out in brothers like this. I don't know if I can call him a brother, because all skin folk and kinfolk, but it comes out,
He's still skin folks, so he's still a
in
brother.
destructive ways, in very destructive ways. And these are the people, right, that are put in a position to give information to our children, right? These are the people we need to be aware of, and we need to need to make sure that our children understand that Blackness is not a badge of shame, that we came from greatness, and to greatness we will return. But we need to let them know that while there were so many great people out there, great orators, great thinkers, there are also some handkerchief head coons out there that they need to avoid.
I like to promote the books as well. So I guess once I get this web page up and running, I'll have a space where I can promote books. There's a brother named Clay Kane.
Oh, I'm
And
familiar with him from
yeah,
Talk Radio.
he's from Talk Radio. He's also a writer as well. Yeah,
Mhm.
I've read one of it, I read a book that he's written, and it's called The Griff. Now,
Yes, I'm familiar with that.
now in that book, it kind of tells you about the it's the Republicans from the party of Lincoln, the Black Republicans from the party of Lincoln to the cult of Trump. And in there, it kind of tells a lot about certain people, as we were talking about through history, that we would not consider our kinfolk. They've been our skinfolk, and they have done so much damage to us as Black people. And
Mhm.
if you get a chance to read the Griff, you'll see what I mean. He's got another book out now too. I think I want to check out. It's called "Burn Down Master's House."
Mhm.
Just the title kind of
Mhm.
got me, But that
Yeah.
other book that we read, Black AF History,
Right. Yes.
that's an excellent book too. So when I get a chance and I get this web page up and running, I'm gonna have a list of recommended reading for
Mhm.
us.
And that's definitely one of them. That one is a great book. So much information is in there.
Great book.
And
So I
on that line of information, I told you about a good friend of mine. He is a modern day griot in every sense of the word, and I'm going to try to get him on with us at least one day in February, so you can just see what hear and see what I saw when I met this man over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I thought I knew Black history. He has a museum, his own museum in San Diego, California, and in 1 hour I learned more about the history of African peoples throughout the diaspora than I learned in 20 years of schooling.
Hmm. Well,
So we
we got
definitely
a
need to
good
have him
chance.
on.
We had the young lady here recently where she got an opportunity to talk about the Monroe County. The starting, her family has been here since like the 1800s, and we kind of rolled on up into 70s. So that was a good experience about her mother actually being one of the people or the founders of the NAACP here in Monroe County. So they honor her yearly. So I have her on the show. We also going to have another young lady that she's from an empowerment, a woman empowerment, which is the Metamorphosis Empowerment Group, and she'll
Ah,
be on. Right, that young lady will be on the 11th. Now I got a good surprise. I'm just waiting. Well, I don't want to make it a surprise, but I got a good person, especially I want to talk to about history, and his name would be Chris Curry.
okay.
Okay, Ray Goodman and Brown, the moments, all of that. And this brother has a library of history in his head. I mean, what he's got in his brain, you could literally fill up the Smithsonian Library. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
he's a plethora of knowledge, and there's a few other brothers that I would like to bring on. I get an opportunity to bring the sisters on. I like to bring a brother or two on too, and see what they
Mm-hmm.
got to say. What's their contribution to what's going on in today's time and where they think we're headed to in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So to everyone out there, thank you guys for tuning in. I see you've already tuned in, and we here like to say thank you, and we do appreciate you tuning in. If you hit the like and subscribe button, we would appreciate that as well. We're trying to grow as a community station here, so we're all brothers and sisters. As long as we remember that, we must treat each other humanely. Recently, we have not been doing that. Hopefully, we actually come to that where we can actually unify. And that'd be kind of cool. We don't have to love each other. Just want to have us respect each other. And on that note, brother, as you always say, Hotep. And as my girl would always say,
Hotep.
my girl would say, be yourself because everybody else is taken. So, Stevenson and Yates, we'll see you next week on Tuesday. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Peace.